Smith, who is the player that'll make the biggest impact with his new team, you hit the jackpot. My name is MJ Acosta. Thanks for joining us today. We'll get to all that and more later in the show, but we're going to start with Tom Brady, who, of course, appears in the Buccaneers YouTube channel show In the Current. It's a behind-the-scenes look at the Super Bowl 55 champions. It drops Wednesdays at 8 Eastern. Now, the first of 6 episodes, History Begins, that's available to watch right now. Here's a sneak peek for you. Brady catching up with Peyton Manning before the Bucs' Week 3 matchup in Denver.
What's up, big guy? How you doing?
What's happening?
Good to see you, man. Good to see you. What's up, guys?
What's up, guys? Y'all wait?
How you guys doing?
So, it's Marshall and Mosley. You remember that?
Of course. It's been a while.
Yeah.
How you doing? Is that DT jersey? Or Emmanuel? Which one? I don't remember.
DT.
I love DT.
Good call.
I love that guy, too. Where you sitting there?
We still have our suite. Instead of having 20, we can have 10. We can have 10. It's pretty tough. I just, I think if we got tested and all that. How's Siegel doing? It's good. He's homeschooling his kids all summer. Let's just say they're not going to Ivy League school. Eli Manning teaching you common denominator. I like the way he plays.
So in 2020, the Bucs offense had the best season in their franchise history. They ranked first in points per game, offensive touchdowns per game, pass touchdowns. I mean, all the things, as you can see right here. Let's welcome in James Jones, D'Angelo Hall, and James Palmer. Hello, fellas. All right, this feels like a pretty good spot, having said all of that, to talk about a little room for improvement. Now, we know that the Buccaneers brought everyone in the kitchen sink back to the field. But what details now does Tampa have to focus on to return to the Super Bowl, James Palmer?
Well, MJ, Tom Brady said it about 2 weeks ago. He said one of the hardest things about repeating is the things that worked last year will not work again the following year, and teams will play you differently. You have to make adjustments. And one spot that they're growing is Brady's chemistry with all of these pass catchers that are returning. Remember, the throwing sessions they had a year ago were just trying to get Tom Brady up to speed and introduce himself to all these guys. Now, fast forward to this year, after a season together in which they won the Super Bowl, Brady told me those throwing sessions are all about nonverbal communication. How do you go about maybe a tap of the helmet or a head nod and way you change routes and make some of these option routes one thing or another? And a guy to keep your eye on is Chris Godwin. He's played just as many snaps, actually exactly, in the slot as he has outside. Remember what Brady has done with guys in the slot like Julian Edelman, Wes Welker over the years, when he has that chemistry and ability to change some things up. The same thing's happening in the red zone with Mike Evans, who has a big body receiver. They're able to do some different things down there, adjustments at the line. That's everything they're doing this offseason. And James, you know what it's like to play with a quarterback that's one of the greatest to ever do it. And when that chemistry builds, the advantages that you get.
You're absolutely right, and that is going to be a big adjustment for them, and it's going to be much better for them in year 2. Playing with Aaron Rodgers, playing with Brett Favre, but playing with Aaron for the most of my career, he could look at me twice and I can know exactly what he wants me to do. He could tap his helmet on the inside, letting me know the defender is inside leverage. I know exactly what he wants to do, and that is the kind of jump that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense and receivers are going to take. You've sat in meetings all year last year saying, hey, listen, if we get this situation next time, we're going to try to do this. If we get this situation next time, we're going to try to do this. And you go through the whole season, your first year, learning about the guy, learning about your quarterback, and finally putting it together. And when year 2 comes and you line up and you're like, ooh, this is the situation that we talked about week 15 last year. Oh, he looked at me twice. I know exactly what I'm doing. So you're going to see this offense and these receivers, even though you've seen all them ones up there, they was first and everything, you're going to see them take the next step and start to have a lot more explosive plays strictly off the chemistry Tom Brady and those receivers have. And with saying all that, man, that's scary, and it's going to be tough to stop them boys from going back.
Yeah, JJ, you talked about that chemistry. You as well, James. But on top of that, too, with that chemistry, it's that trust factor, right? How many times did we see Tom Brady eyeing Mike Evans, and it looked like they just didn't trust each other? So I can't wait for those guys to keep building on that trust as well as that chemistry. But for me, on the defensive side of the football, I want to see these guys continue to own their identity. You know, it was times through the course of that season where you saw Todd Bowles kind of sit back a little bit, and that's never been his style. That's never been his defensive style. When they got rolling in the playoffs, they were sending constant pressure. It wasn't just the front four at times. You know, Devin White was able to come in there. He finished the season with, I think, 9.5 sacks as a middle linebacker. So that tells you they were sending a lot of pressure with him coming in there blitzing. So, you know, with that young secondary and all those guys, Carlton Davis, Antoine Whitfield, we know they're going to continue to gel and they're going to continue to build on their chemistry as well. But you can't lose your identity, what got you there, what got you that ring, and that's the dominating defense that gets after the quarterback. So I'm looking forward to watching Tampa continue to hunt, man. When you can bring all 22 starters back, MJ, like you mentioned, kind of makes your job a little bit easier.
Listen, you guys talk about that trust, nonverbal communication. It's like art imitating life, right? The parallels between life and football. You got to have that trust out on the field. But it's like when I look at my husband at a party or gathering, I just have to look at him. He knows I'm ready to go. Same thing with QBs and the guys out there. Right? Am I wrong? I'm not.
We know that look. We know that look.
I knew it. All right. Meantime, the other team from the Super Bowl 55, they're working on their 2021 domination potentially. The QB specifically, Patrick Mahomes getting work in with fellow Lone Star State QB and current Colt Sam Ehlinger. Look at that. All right, I get it. Everybody out there just trying to get right in this offseason. So, guys, as we continue this conversation about room for improvement and we head to the Chiefs, here is what is off the table in this conversation before we get into it. No mention of keeping Mahomes healthy or of the offensive line in KC. So now that that's off the table, beyond those aspects, what does Kansas City need to focus on to reach their third consecutive Super Bowl? Palmer, start us off again, please.
Well, MJ, talking to people in Kansas City, it's finding a third pass catcher after Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill. You saw what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were able to do in that Super Bowl. Now, that's tough. You need to have the horses out there to be able to stop those two guys. But at the same time, who steps up? Sammy Watkins is no longer with the team, and you didn't get Juju Smith-Schuster. What do you do as a third option? They would like Mecole Hardman in his third NFL season to step into that. He had 41 catches for 560 yards and 4 touchdowns a season ago. But talking to some people, it might be a variety of things. Maybe more 2 tight end sets than they've ever used since Patrick Mahomes became the starter there. They drafted Noah Gray, a tight end with a similar skill set to Travis Kelce that they could put on the field potentially at the same time, and also throwing the football to those guys out of the backfield. Mahomes believes they're really good route runners, specifically Clyde Edwards-Helaire. They can catch the football afterwards and make some plays in space. What Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes did after the Super Bowl was look at the offense and say, we need to make more plays in the short, intermediate passing game, JJ. So where can we go with the football and other aspects when we know teams are taking away the deep shot of Tyreek Hill? I know they've tried a lot of things this offseason, and they're throwing a lot of things against the wall to see what sticks.
James, as much as I want to throw this ball all over the yard, as much as I want a number 3 receiver to emerge, for me, they have to run the football. You have Clyde Edwards-Helaire back there. Yes, you talked about you upgraded the offensive line. When they had the most success in the Super Bowl, they came out in the second half and ran the football, and this young fella has some explosive runs. Get the ball in his hands, and you make it easier on the pass game. I remember when we got Eddie Lacy in Green Bay, and Coach was like, we are going to run this football. And we're like, do you see all the weapons we have? Do you see Aaron Rodgers is the best player on the planet? But when Eddie Lacy started toting the rock, we started looking out there like, oh, my goodness, we ain't got cover 2. It's man-to-man coverage. We're able to get loose a little bit and make some plays. You got to let this young fella run the ball, get some man-to-man coverage for Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce and Mecole Hardman, and this offense will even go to the next level. But start with the running game and don't sit back there and try to have Patrick Mahomes throw this thing 45 times a game and think that you're going to be this explosive offense that we've seen in the past.
Yeah, and I think a little bit of pressure is going to be on that secondary, right? When you play for a team that offense scores so many points, scores so fast, defensively and being a secondary player, you're going to always have the opposing team playing from behind, throwing the football all the time. I was able to spend a little time with Tyrann Mathieu down at Jackson State at Deion Sanders' event. And, I just was picking his brain about that young secondary. And he loves L'Jarius Sneed and Travarius Ward and those young guys. And he thinks they have an opportunity to really be an explosive team back there. And I think they're going to get their fair share of opportunities. Think about a young guy like Mike Hughes who comes over from Minnesota who just couldn't quite figure it out. Tyron thinks that this guy could be maybe the answer at that nickel position, the guy who can come in there and make some plays for him. Juan Thorhill has been an extreme playmaker for that Chiefs secondary, and so getting him back into the fold and back healthy. Daniel Sorensen. So I'm looking forward to watching this Chiefs secondary. It's going to be some pressure on them, but I think those guys are up for the task.
No doubt, D-Hall, and I know we focus so much on Mahomes and the offense with good reason, right? But that defense, they ranked top 10 in points allowed last season. So still room for growth there, but they do have the talent and certainly have the hunger to go out there and do their part to get the ball back to that amazing offense.